The Amateur Hour podcast finds itself again, probably more waist deep, not even knee deep anymore, waist deep in the middle of draft conversation. But if you stop there, then you're kind of like everyone else, and that's okay. We're not scouts, Danny Wexelman and I don't claim to be. Love learning from them, love listening to them. So if we stop there, that's where we stop. This is about the people who are generating the conversations, who are lighting up the metrics, who may financially have their lives changed forever in the summertime. And I love this show, Danny, because you went to interesting places. This seems to be a common theme, by the way, a very, very common theme on this year's show, and I'll tell you why. Virginia Tech's Jack Hurley, when he graduated, by the way, they both were, and it stinks, they both were 20 grads, COVID draft, COVID graduation, drive-through graduations, all the crap that went along with being a COVID kid in your senior year. Both our guests were COVID grads. Jack Hurley, Virginia Tech. Now you've heard the name, right? I mean, you selected this podcast because of Jack Hurley. Jack Hurley, Virginia Tech, ranking outfield 500, 208 amongst all outfielders, 208 outside of 500 amongst overall players. Cade Kuehler, ranking, same thing, incredibly low outside of anything high. Perfect game, thought he was a nice player, but again, did not have a high ranking. Both of them now are within the top 20 amongst every player that's draft eligible. When you look at PG's Draft 300, Cade Kuehler, Campbell, right-handed pitcher, Jack Hurley, Virginia Tech, they've taken college, they've completely developed under the watchful eye of both their programs.
Yeah, I think that's what stuck out to me recently. It's been a couple of weeks since our last episode, and what I've had the chance to see, and I know you have too, is number one, guys at the big league level making their debuts, whether they went to college or not, speaking to the development of what's happening at the high school level and the college level. And then you look at these two guys, you listed their numbers, where they were coming into school, and they weren't the guy. And they took college and they used every ounce of their power to make sure that they're eating right, they're studying right, they're using the technology that's provided to them, they're leaning into their teammates, their coaches, and all of this to say now is where they're at and where they could go come the draft in July. And that's a completely different place than when they got to campus and stepped foot at their colleges to be student athletes. So I think that's something that's spoken to me since the last time we recorded one of our podcasts, is just how much college has meant to these players and how much it can change their lives. And so for Jack, it's really cool to hear his family's influence. They're at all of his home games, and they've got this nice tradition going, and what they've meant to him, but also just what this program has meant to him. And if you look at his numbers, pretty staggering from freshman to sophomore year. And then even this year now, by the time the podcast comes out, the role that he's on and the adjustments he's made, and he shares what those are, and dad, and how dad's helped him out a little bit. And I think actually one of the coolest things that we get to hear from him is who his favorite Team USA teammate was and is, and he hasn't faced him yet. I'll give you a little hint. He's going to face him this season, and he gave us a little insight into what he might have to do at the plate to try to get a hit. And then for Cade Kuehler, this guy stands out for so many different reasons. Number one, if you just look at him, he's got this incredible mustache going on, and then we get to hear the story behind his mustache and how meaningful it is, and how I think we go to a deeper level. You did such a good job with that, D, just taking it to a deeper level, because this kid shoves. He's phenomenal on the mound. He's really special. He's really talented. He's at a mid-major program. Justin Hare's done an amazing job with Campbell. But what Cade Kuehler brings to this game is so much more than just baseball, and I think that's also really important to show, and I'm glad we get to do that here.
And kudos to all four parents, Tim, Mary Ellen, Richard, and Tracy. Just wanted to say their names, the four parents with these two athletes, because again, if it all bounces, the baseball bounces the way it's supposed to bounce, they will both, in the middle of July, when you're getting done with your 4th of July weekend and you've celebrated whatever you do with your life to enjoy it, they'll both, in all likelihood, by the end of summer, be millionaires. And they'll handle it well. They'll handle it well. I don't think I'm stretching it to say they'll handle it very, very well. I think it's telling when Jack Hurley, you know, I mentioned the rankings, and Kuehler, by the way, was the 438th right-handed pitcher in the class. Again, he's number 20 in the draft 300 now. That's all players, college, JUCO, high school. 438 right-handed pitcher. But Hurley said, I deserved those rankings back then. I didn't play well in games. I'm glad there were some good scouting reports about me that maybe got me to college. And by the way, you'll be blown away by the scouting report from 6 years ago about him and how spot on it was. Somebody at Perfect Game, I got to figure out who wrote that, nailed it with him, like just flat nailed it. So it's a great podcast, some real conversations, Kuehler especially, pretty darn transparent and could impact some people when you listen to his thoughts. Cade Kuehler, something that's nothing to do with baseball, yet everything to do with baseball at the very much same time. It's a great one. Listen up. Enjoy.
I want to start with your family, Jack, because Darren was talking a little bit about your mom. We've heard a little bit about your dad, Tim, and the contributions that they've made to you. So I want to start because I saw that you were quoted back when you were a prep player talking about adversity and what you go through as a high school kid to get to college, and you brought your dad up. I know we'll talk about mom, but you brought your dad up and the time that dad spent with you. Can you kind of take us back home with you and show us a little bit of what your family does together and how dad's been a part of your baseball journey?
Baseball's been the Hurley family for ever since I was like a little kid. So going back to whenever I was 3 or 4, we were playing in the backyard, me and my dad, and he was always giving me a bat to swing, kind of pushing me past my limits, and that went all the way through Little League, through high school, everything. And then it kind of as a family, like you see all my family here at the games, and it's really motivating to kind of compete for them and play for them. But it's something our whole entire family can kind of rally around, is the whole sport of baseball. But it's brought me and my dad really close. He played at Penn State, and ever since whenever I was a little kid, I was like, I want to do that. I want to play college baseball like my dad. So I think that might answer your question a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It does. What about some conversations maybe that you've had with dad that have stuck with you, whether it was after a tough game or one of your best performances? Is there something that he says or has said to you that you carry with you?
We've had a ton of conversations the past couple of weeks just about approach stuff, about like mechanics, everything. I talk to him after each game. We'll run back past the at-bats and just think about what I could have done better, what I did good. So one that might have stuck with me is a couple of weeks ago. I was kind of like going through like a little slump kind of thing, and he told me, he's like, just try to lower your hands a little bit, go up there with a little bit of confidence, and I ever since then I did that, and I felt a lot more comfortable. So a lot of the credit the past couple of weeks has been to Dad. So thank you.
Well done by Dad.
Yeah.
7 home runs in your last 7 games. So Dad gets the credit for that and for that swing change.
I'll give him some of it, not all of it.
Yeah, he didn't swing the bat. He didn't pitch recognize. He didn't have that natural heart pounding that comes into being in your shoes at that moment. But after speaking of like the most minor of swing changes, dropping your hands just a little bit, between freshman and sophomore year, refresh me as someone who's getting to know you about the swing change you did make between freshman and sophomore year and how you still see the impacts and how big it was for you. Refresh me on that, please.
Freshman year, I kind of started with my hand just laying on my shoulder. It was very like herky-jerky, kind of going back like here just with the pitcher. But then going into sophomore year, I was like, I need to change something up a little bit. I need some more rhythm. I play better whenever I'm in rhythm, and I kind of rose my hands a little bit here and had some rhythm into it, kind of working with the pitcher as opposed to like having that herky-jerky movement. And then ever since then, my sophomore year, I've kind of just been cleaning it up a little bit. So it's kind of changed a couple times just without even trying to. But recently, my hands were a little too high up, so Dad was like, just bring them down a little bit. And I did that, and it's felt really comfortable. So this year, I've kind of been just focusing on just cleaning every movement up and making it as swift as possible.
So video is everything, and I'm sure you'll tell me that the incredibly slow-mo video is also part of what you look at. But how often do you pass by a full-length mirror and use that to assess your swing? No bat in your hand, Just you looking at balance. How often does that happen?
It happens pretty often. We have so many mirrors up in our cages at Tech, and I always catch myself just in the mirror trying to figure out where my hand should start, what my move's looking like, because I really get like good feedback from it. I'm like, okay, this is what I look like right now. I need to change something up or just keep doing that exact movement. So mirror drills, I think, I mean, I love them, but the video is good too.
Yeah, it's interesting. I look back on time when you were just a baby, if you will, and you went to a Middle Atlantic showcase in Jersey. I don't even know if you remember that, a perfect game showcase. You were a kid way back then. But here's where they nailed it. Whoever was there scouting and whatever level they were with perfect game, okay? Here's where they nailed it. For a guy that graduated as the 208th ranked outfielder in the country who now is projected to be a first-round pick, to me, follow me, Jack, here's where they got it right. It said way back then in 2017, that's 6 years ago, highly athletic, highly projectable build, middle approach, line drive swing play. And you hit a ton of line drives today. Legit bat speed. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? That even though, you look at rankings for whatever they're worth, right? For whatever they're worth, whoever wrote that scouting report in simplest of terms nailed it, didn't he?
Yeah, just tell whoever wrote that thanks, because I definitely wasn't putting it together in the games, but I could take a decent BP. So if they saw that, tell them I say thank you for that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because those are the things. I mean, look, you want, the metrics, you want all that stuff different, game situations. You're doing that now. But those words, you hope still describe you today, yes?
Oh yeah. I think they do. I hope they do at least. But I think I've came a long way since that Mid-Atlantic showcase, and I've put it together a little bit more in games. I don't blame them for ranking me whatever, because I was definitely not putting it together back then. But I've had a lot of support here, so they've helped me come a long way.
A lot of times those blurbs that are written are right, but they don't know necessarily who you'll be as a person, right? Or the work that you are going to put in to get to where you are now, or how you're shaped by your surroundings. And so I actually love when Darren does that, because often we get the response that you just gave, and it's led you to great things, right? Because you were part of the national team, and I could imagine that experience was so special. You had teammates with you, and it's such a honor to be part of that. But we hear a lot of the relationships that you build off the field, or just the guys who are on that team that maybe you didn't know before. Do you have a guy who you met on that team who you didn't know coming in, and now that you're closer with?
Yeah, I love the boys from Wake. I didn't know Rhett Lauder or Teddy McGraw very well going in there, but coming out, we talk all the time and keep in contact. I text him after his outing the other day. I was like, dude, you're killing it. So he's Rhett and both Teddy are awesome, and they're friends that I will have for a while.
Have you faced them this year?
No, I haven't. We play them, I think, the last weekend of our regular season. So
Okay.
they're on a roll right now, so hopefully the Hokies can do some damage, but it'll be a tough matchup.
Yeah, so when you see Rhett, I mean, you mentioned Rhett, the recognition he's getting too. We had him on last month or so. What do you do in the box against him? How do you get a knock against a guy like him?
He's got a couple good pitches, so just kind of seeing the ball in the zone is probably my best bet. He's got one of the best changeups, I believe, in the country, so if he tries to throw that thing, got to stay in there and hopefully stay through it and try to think up the middle. But I told him the other day, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep a straight face whenever I'm facing you. So he was like, I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see.
I love that. I think there's something that crosses my mind more than it did last season or the season before doing this podcast with Darren is how the game has changed so much since you guys have been in college, and how much more developed you guys are. You see dudes who are drafted and are playing or have the chance to play so much sooner because of your development. So you're at Virginia Tech. John Sheff is your head coach. You've got a great staff there. What do you think is the biggest part of your college experience that has developed you to make you more big league ready?
I think it's directly playing my freshman year. I got a lot of experience playing that freshman year, and not everybody gets to say they went into a big program and had experience like I did my freshman year, and that definitely propelled me into sophomore year and beyond. So getting that early exposure to ACC level competition was huge for my development. And then all the things that we do here at Tech, like from a hitting standpoint, lifting weights, all that conditioning that we do in the off season, in the preseason, all of that stuff really works together. And on top of the experience, it's kind of propelled me into this year.
So where do things like sleep and meal prep rank in your world these days?
Sleep is huge for me. I sleep like 9 hours a night probably. I try to get as much sleep as I can. The meal prep, we do a really good job here with nutrition. So we get a lot of our meals catered to us, and so it's very nice not having to really worry about that. They kind of took that off of our plate. But the sleep thing is definitely huge for me.
It does make a difference, doesn't it, with your mind, your body, recovery. How do you recover at the end of a game? If you're grabbing those 9, I can't think of the last time I slept 9 hours, but if you're grabbing those 9 hours, and you know it hasn't happened. Like I'm looking since March 18th. We record this podcast. You know, in the last 10 games, you've been on base 25 times, so there haven't been sleepless nights. But when that next offer comes, I hope it never happens, but when it comes, how do you unplug? How do you unwind? How do you relax so you can go to sleep? What goes on with you? Is it gaming? Is it reading? What happens to you to unplug from even a great night? You got to unplug. What do you do?
A lot of times, like I said, my family comes to the games, so it's a lot of hanging out with them, or if they're not there, hanging out with my friends. So if I go 0 for, if I go 2 for whatever I do at the plate, I kind of just every day go back and hang out with my friends and family and those who care about me most and who I care about most, and kind of helps me get my mind off the whole baseball thing and just looking forward to the next day.
Oh, makes sense. And your mom, Mary Ellen, what gives your mom, Mary Ellen, joy?
I think what gives her joy is just kind of being here and seeing me do my thing. She loves coming to Blacksburg and watching the Hokies play baseball. So I would say right now that gives her a little bit of joy. Obviously, she wishes I was probably home a little bit more than I am right now, because all my brothers and sisters are out of the house too. So I think whenever our family's together, that's what brings her the most joy.
Do you hear mom in the stands? What kind of fan is mom?
Oh, she's definitely rowdy. I don't hear her too much. I try to stay locked in, and there's typically we get some good amount of fans here, so kind of blends in. But I've heard some stories, and she's definitely a loud one.
Ooh, is there a story you could share?
I've just heard from some of my friends in the dugout that sometimes they can hear her.
And what about post game? Do you guys have a spot that you go to regularly, or are you trying new spots? How does that look?
We've been actually post game not as much, but pre game we've been doing a new thing where we have on I think actually Wednesdays we do a little get together at our house. So we started doing that 2 weeks ago, and we've been playing a little bit better. So we did like a grill, we cooked burgers and dogs the other day, last Wednesday, and we took that into the weekend and gave us some momentum. So we're doing the same thing tonight. So that's kind of our pregame thing as a team right now.
I love that. How do you dress? What do you dress in? A hamburger or a hot dog?
Oh, definitely a burger. I don't do the hot dogs.
I've offended you. I am so sorry.
I've just never been
Yeah.
never been a big hot dog guy now.
That's fair. That's good. I love that. D?
For me, if I'm taking all things baseball away from you and they're gone, what else are you passionate about? Maybe professionally as a career, or things that you enjoy. What else, like if I were to take it away from you, and it's not going anywhere, but what else are you passionate about that maybe could pay your bills someday?
I would say I'm a people person. So if there's a way that I could do something professionally that would cause me to communicate with people every day and try to learn more about others, I think I could do a pretty good job, maybe make a living off of that. But really, it's the relationships that would keep me together if I didn't have the game. So the relationships with my friends and family.
I love that. You can be a broadcaster, so come join us.
Awesome.
When you are long done with your career, come join
I
us on the other.
actually I have a little bit of
Yes.
experience. Last year we were playing in our regional, and they gave us the mic, and I was on the mic broadcasting our game in the middle of the.
That was me, Jack.
I
That
know.
was with
I was.
me.
I think it was you. It was like me, Graham Firebed. We were just broadcasting. It was so much fun. That was one of the highlights of my Virginia Tech career.
Are you serious? D, they're crushing, so they pick up the headset in the game, put it on. They don't even know. They're like, is this thing on? And our producers, like, they put the camera on them, and they're like, okay, we're just going to roll with this moment here. And it was amazing.
It was so much fun. We still talk about that moment till today. Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, my God. That's great. Okay, well, there you go.
Danny, that's a pretty high ranking. Like, this is a dude that's got like 30-something home runs in his career, and it's like the highlight of his Virginia
Seriously,
Tech
it is.
career.
It was really cool.
You can join us anytime.
That concerns me about my job. That concerns me about my job. Stick to baseball, Cowboy. I'm still not ready
Jack,
to go
thank
yet.
you so much.
I'm kind of excited to meet. I mean, we just met in the pre-recording. Campbell's Cade Kuehler, who does such a great job for this staff, but he's not alone on a successful team. So, Cade, later on, I want to talk to you a little bit about what you shared from Movember, if you will. But I want to talk to you about Mo March, because I'm guessing you wish there was Mo March. So what happens in a month, and it's gone now, in which you deal out 25 innings, you strike out 36, you only give up one bomb, you pitch great all month. 3 of those starts are on the road, which is key, and I think bears mentioning. What went well for you, whether it's mentally or physically, in the month of March? Because you probably want Mo March.
I think our coaching staff put us in a position to challenge us throughout the month of March. A lot of road games. We went to Louisiana, right to App State, some challenging weather with really cold, really windy. Ended up getting snow on Sunday, so we didn't end up playing that game. So I think kind of getting challenged, and that's something that Coach Hare puts on us really often, and just rising to that occasion and kind of taking whatever challenge is thrown at my way and trying to put my best foot forward.
Okay, so there's your answer. On the coach's side, he made it challenging for you as a pitcher, and I'm going to just talk individually. The team responded too. Why did you respond so well? Why individually did you respond so well to those challenges?
I think I love to be challenged. It kind of proves to me what I'm really capable of. So in any environment, any situation, it's kind of just a competition with myself to see what I can handle, whether it's 35 degrees and windy or raining or whatever it may be. I don't think I've had a home start this year that hasn't gotten any sort of rain. So kind of just testing myself to see what I can get through and see how good I can really be.
Cade, what are you capable of? If you want to learn and show yourself what you're capable of, Cade, what are you capable of?
I think really anything I kind of put my mind to. I think any situation, any team. I got to throw against the number 1 team maybe ever in college baseball last year at Tennessee. Kind of got to go out there and compete with those guys. So I think and ended up pitching on the college national team last year. So it's kind of whatever I put my mind to.
We should go back because there's got to be some people or some places that have shaped that mindset, because I love to hear that. And I think that comes from a good group of people to support you and also to kind of just show you those things too, right? So take us home or take us to your favorite place to pitch or to practice, and who's with you and how do they help you? How do they shape you?
So I was fortunate enough to play with the same coach for 10 years, from 6 to 16. I had the same head coach for our summer ball. His name was Rick Suarez. We had an elite team for as long as I can remember. I think we were ranked as high as 3rd in the country in a 12U organization. So I was kind of the guy that he would put in with bases loaded and no outs coming in from the outfield. And he's like, all right, like, get out of it. We need you to get out of this to win a game. So being on a high-level baseball team, I think we have 8 Division I players. Philip Abner is at Florida right now. He was highly recruited out of high school, almost got drafted. So just being around elite talent my entire life and put into highly competitive situations, I think it's kind of just made me grow into that kind of mindset.
What's your body's reaction to coming into a situation like that? Maybe not having done it as often or as much as you would want, but your coach says, hey, come on, you're doing it.
I think I'm definitely an adrenaline guy. I don't feel much when I'm out there, so I think just the adrenaline gets going and it kind of locks me into whatever situation's at hand.
Yeah, and just one more on that team. So your Canes national team, I mean, the numbers are gaudy. They're really gaudy, especially I think your last season, an 8-1 record, 3 saves, .82 ERA, the WWBA championship, a perfect game World Series, #1 national ranking. I mean, like, it's silly, right? What's your fondest memory of travel ball? What do you got for us?
That group knew how to win. I think we had 9 walk-off wins that summer. It was just a bunch of guys that knew how to win baseball games no matter the situation. We'd go down 2-0 early, and it's like, all right, like, how are we going to win this one today? I think we were like 48-3-3. So just being around that elite level talent and being able to compete. I actually was on American to begin the summer, and then was invited to play with National because they needed an extra arm. Ended up throwing really well, got the invite back for the Perfect Game World Series, and then ended up throwing the most innings in the tournament and having a really, really good week, and then winning a world, or I guess it was called a world championship at the time, was something that'll stick out for me forever.
That had to tell you something about yourself, right? I mean, again, here you are now. You told me earlier you love challenges, you love responding to challenges, you kind of embrace discomfort. But that had to tell you something about yourself, not to overinflate your ego, but inflate your confidence to say, okay, I actually do belong at this next Division I level. I already know I'm headed there. I'm planning on going there. But going through an experience like that with quote-unquote dudes, D1, Power 5 dudes, that had to tell you, I belong with you guys.
Oh, for sure. I remember getting there and kind of looking at the roster sheet the first day I got to the Perfect Game World Series, and I think I was the only mid-major guy on the team, if I remember, or there might have been one other. So I'm like, wow, this is pretty unreal. And then Coach Mills told me I was starting game 1, and so then it's like, all right, like, no, I really got to go. And I ended up throwing like 5 scoreless or something good, and the guys backed me up behind me, a lot of good offense. So kind of proving to myself and kind of getting those comments like, why'd you choose Campbell? Why'd you choose Campbell? I'm like, well, I think it's pretty obvious now why I chose Campbell. I am where I am, and then top 25 national ranking. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, so for you, stuff-wise, who are you as a pitcher? And you can be detailed. This is a Geeks podcast. You're not going to lose people on describing your pitches and what has worked for you and why it's worked for you. So take a minute or two and kind of describe your arsenal and be as in-depth as you can, please.
I think the thing that sticks out the most is the power fastball that's kind of developed since I've been here. The high ride, I think it's 20-plus induced vertical, low approach angle, all of that. So I think kind of just the power fastball that I bring. And then my sophomore summer going into my sophomore year, or freshman summer going into my sophomore year, it's when I developed a little cutter slider hybrid. It's kind of gotten a little more sweepy, so the horizontal break's gotten a little bigger, stays on the same plane, and I think that's kind of the best complement to my fastball, same arm speed, similar slot. And I think I throw it actually for a higher strike percentage of my fastball, so that's been the game changer for me. In a 2-0, 3-1, 3-2 count, they can't just sit on the fastball because no matter how hard it is, when you know it's coming, it's not that hard to hit. So now I can kind of keep guys off time. Played a lot with the curveball over the fall and into the spring, and I think I've got a good grasp at it, trying to get it more up and down to play off the high ride fastball. And I think it's really good to finish down at the bottom of the zone with 2 strikes. The splitter, I would say, is my most unique pitch. Kind of has a knuckle look to it. Not like a split change, more like a true splitter or forkball. Same slot, kind of just something different that I can bring to the table. And then I've actually brought in the true circle change into the year. I think I've thrown it 10 times on the year, but it's kind of something that I've been working on and kind of fun to see work as I go into the season.
So if it has the look of a forkball, do you split the baseball or do you go up the seams? How do you hold that splitter?
Straight, split, deep into the hand, kind of give it a little gap. Yeah, so my coach, Rick Suarez, he threw at Seton Hall, and he actually threw a splitter, and he knew when I was like 12, he's like, actually, like, you have pretty big hands. Like, I want you to try to start throwing this. I'd sit with a softball in between my fingers when I was watching commercials and stuff, and I finally split them enough to where, like, when I was 15, it was just comfortable. And so now it's just, like, super loose, and I can throw it comfortable, no harm at all.
Yeah, man, I used to do the same thing with a softball 2 generations ago. That's great advice you got. It's a wonderful pitch. I never mastered the change like you are mastering. Keep mastering that change because I had to have the split. I never got comfortable with it. Great descriptions. Thank you.
Those were so good. And also, I don't feel like I hear fork a lot in college. Maybe it exists, right? But I don't hear guys say that a ton. Are you paying any attention at all to Kodai Senga and his ghost fork pitch
Yeah,
at all?
that thing's unbelievable. I have no clue how he throws it, and I mean, we joke around. I call it a splitter, but I've heard forkball. I've heard a bunch of different stuff, but yeah, no, mine. I don't know if mine's anything like that. That pitch is unhittable.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So, okay, I feel like I have such a better picture of who you are and what makes you up. I feel like Darren probably does too. So, doing a little digging, now it all makes sense. Last year, you started a game on a Friday. You threw 103 pitches, got 10 Ks in 6 innings, and then you came back the next day in relief and threw 2/3 shutout. Is that just because you said, Coach, I can do it? Like, I think I know the answer here, but tell us.
Yeah, that was a fun thing. That was a fun couple of days. We played the doubleheader on Saturday. I started the game 1, did my recovery with our strength coach during game 2. Our training staff, Tanner and Sophia, did a phenomenal job. Got with them that night. Got my body ready to go the next day. Coach Robinson looked at me before game 1. He's like, "You sure you're okay to throw today?" I'm like, "Yeah, put my name on the list. Like, I'll be there." He writes it down. I'm like, "All right, good. At least I know in my head, like, I'm in a competitive mindset." We finished game 1. I remember being in the tunnel, and Coach Robinson put his hands on my shoulders, like, "Can you actually throw today? Like, don't kid me. Like, we won game 1. I'm confident we're gonna win game 2. Like, I just need to know, are you lying to me right now? Or, like, do you feel fine?" I'm like, "Dude, I feel fine. Don't worry about it. Like, I'm good to go." And then I remember it was in the 7th. We got into a little bit of trouble, and he just looked at me. He just looked at me and nodded his head. He's like, "All right, go down there." I remember coming in. I made a joke when I got to the mound because I was just like, I don't know what's about to happen right here. I looked down and I'm like, "Hey, I haven't had a bullpen call in a while." He looked at me, handed me, he's like, "All right, you got to figure it out." And then ended up being probably the highlight of my career. Double play, 1-2-3 double play, get out of it, and then ended up winning 3-2. So pretty awesome.
Wow. And your teammates' reaction to that, because like we've kind of danced around the mid-major and Campbell and the program here and how important it's been to you, but also to college baseball. I mean, I think what Campbell does and the way you guys play, the level you play, does a lot for college baseball. But your teammates' reaction and your family's reaction to you doing something like that.
I think they're just excited. We knew we had played not great in the beginning of the year, had a rough start, so we knew it was win this game or we're done for the year. We weren't in a spot for the at-large bid at the time, so we were all hands on deck, ready to go. And I think we all know we give what we can at any time. That's kind of the culture here. Whatever the situation is, whatever's needed of you at the time, I think everybody's bought into doing that. And it just happened to be me in the time. I think we had plenty of other arms that could have done what I did, if not better.
I love that answer. I want to ask you about what you shared on Instagram back in November. You were very transparent about struggling as it seemed to be as kind of a preteen, as a junior hire. Even thinking your life was a little bit meaningless at that point, making some tough choices for yourself. I don't know that we need to go relive it. You did a wonderful job sharing. I would encourage people to go find Cade Kuehler's Instagram and listen to him tell the story. I think I'm most impressed as a dad, as a guy who's that age, listening to you speak about your willingness and determination to share that with others. And I'm guessing you've heard from people. Why did you decide to share your story, and what have you heard back?
So we had a guy come in, and he talked about like personal branding, and we're all sitting there, all the athletic teams in the school, and we're sitting there, and he starts putting athletes' pictures up on the big board, and you had to go down and speak about yourself. And so I'm actually really good friends with the guy who made the video. His name's Mason. He was our media person at the time. And I look over at him in the stands, and he looks at me. He's like, "Hey, you're going to go up there." I'm like, "All right, don't mess with me right now. Don't get me all worked up." And next thing I know, my picture's up on the board, and I'm walking down in front of 500 people. And he hands me a microphone. He's like, "All right, tell me who you are and why we should care about you." I'm like, "Okay." I get the mic. And that was just the first thing that came to my mind. I kind of spoke about it a little bit, very briefly. And the Student Athlete Advisory Committee mental health representative is a lacrosse player here. And she texted me after. She's like, hey, we're doing this initiative for mental health. We'd love for you to speak about it. Like, if you're not comfortable with it, I understand. But I think you'd be a great representative for us and somebody that people could connect with. I sat about it. I thought about it. I didn't tell my story for a really long time, kept it to myself for a while. But I remember, I'm like, if I can just help one person, that's really all that matters. It's worth being vulnerable. One person's all I need. And kind of the reaction, I think I had like 150,000 interactions or something like that. And just people in my life that I haven't talked to in so long, just kind of reaching out and being like, thank you so much, was worth any uncomfortability I could have felt at all.
Wow, that's dynamic, and I know for you and where faith and where it matters for you, and sharing that in common, trying to have that kind of mindset, that you had. And what a wonderful example that you just allowed yourself to be a vessel. I mean, sometimes that just is about trust. That's really all it is. Probably not wanting to take any of the courage. I want to see your tattoo. Can you show me your Psalms 23:4 tattoo?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Pretty powerful either at the low times and pretty powerful after a one-hit shutout. It fits either way, I'm guessing, for you.
Oh, no doubt. And then I have Isaiah 43:2 on my ribcage as well. So, just stuff that.
Oh, dang. I know that one hurts, huh? That one hurt a little bit.
I think the bicep was worse. I remember the tattoo artist. He was like, I was watching a guy when I walked in getting a tattoo on his chest. He's like, that's just horrible. I'm like, oh, thanks. That's what I want to hear before I'm about to get a 50-word verse tattooed on my ribcage. And he's like, do you have any others? I showed him the bicep. He's like, you're good. That's way worse.
Oh man, that's amazing. I think what's special about you and about this sport and college athletics is, one, how vulnerable you are, but how dynamic that you are. And I think that's so important to be able to share both sides of you, the person, and you, the ball player. And I think that's, I mean, for us, for you to share that, we really appreciate it.
Of course.
No, thank you, Kate. God bless you and your family. Thank you for the time. So I'm that 53-year-old that you would probably stereotype in the sense that everything has its place. Drama, not really into it. Like to create it in my content, or like to have good human drama and content. But I always feel like everything has its place. Let's let things play out. That being said, I was moved by what Cade said and did. The fact that he addressed mental health, and I think he's an old soul like me. He kind of looks like an old soul. And I think it speaks to that you don't have to be someone who is quote unquote dramatic or quote unquote seeking attention, which he's neither one of those things, to bring awareness to mental health and do it for all the right reasons. To talk about that, literally, if you go, I didn't address it with him, go check it out on his Instagram. He contemplated suicide, and he used those terms and was right there on the edge of making those decisions. And now as a man is addressing it in front of hundreds and hundreds of hundreds, and now he's learned more than thousands upon thousands that have seen and listened to. This isn't a mental health podcast, not at all, by any stretch. But I thought it was super cool, and that's why, his parents have a lot to be proud of, but so does he. He's not at home. He's not a little kid anymore. He's a man. And so for him to be a man in that setting, I just thought it was great. I also thought it was funny listening to our conversation. It took a little while to warm him up. It did. There were very short answers. And then once he warmed, it was trust. I think a lot of it's trust, and I understand that. But I'm glad that he trusted the world with his story, because though it took a little while for him to warm up with us, he trusted the world with a pretty tough story from when he was in junior high.
I thought it was insightful that he mentioned it was uncomfortable, but I knew that if I could help one person, it was worth it. And I think in our world, whether it's sports or outside, but especially in sports, when you're an athlete, you want to be related to, and you want your feelings to be relatable. And I think that as student athletes gain more NIL money or gain more notoriety before they even step on campus, people forget that you're still trying to grow up and balance and figure out who you are and where you belong in this world. And it's a lot to take on. But I think when he had the opportunity, he decided to take it and help other people. And I think that speaks volumes to who he is, and that he was willing to be so vulnerable and share something that there's still a huge stigma around. But I do think that we're trending in the right direction, and I'm really glad that he, first of all, is here, and he took the opportunity to share his story for others, because I think that being able to relate to people is something that we all crave, and he took it to a level that I am sure has helped somebody else.
Well, there's no doubt. I mean, picture any player USA at 14 hearing that. Picture any player USA and just think about that, who's living on his smartphone and taking in the world as he sees it now, which is a very scary thing as a parent at times. And then he hears that, and he realizes that this guy's got the stash and the traditional haircut and is tough and takes on all comers, and by the way, blows cheddar on the mound and is a millionaire, and yet is talking like that. So I thought it was great. Again, we usually don't come out the backside of this podcast and talk about that, but kudos to him, and Jumpin' Jack Hurley, just so cool to listen to him talk. The confidence. I mean, his confidence has been built at Virginia Tech. It really has been, and the ability they have, with Tanner Scoble last year, Gavin, he outplayed, respectfully, sorry, Gavin, he kind of statistically outplayed Gavin, and then watched his teammate go 9th overall. That's got to be encouraging. Hello? The big leagues are calling. You're coming soon. I just love that. I love Jack. He kind of reminds me of some of the guys we've seen. As a matter of fact, a little bit like Zach Neto, who was selected with the Angels from Campbell last year, the mid-major guy. So you're not ranked 208 anymore, dude. You're ranked 18 and rising. I mean, he went in that stretch, by the way. His home run to fly ball rate, I didn't geek out on the advanced metrics. At the time we record this podcast, his home run to fly ball rate is 6th in the NCAA. That means if it goes in the air, it goes out. If it goes in the air, it goes out. A third of the time, if it goes in the air, past the infield grass, it goes out. But his fly ball rate is not high at all. He doesn't hit the ball in the air a ton, but when it goes in the air, it goes out. It's 6th in the NCAA. Line drive rate is really, really high. Weighted runs created plus, love advanced metrics, 171. He is such a guy to geek out on in the stats. So, yeah, this is a good one. These two dudes are going to have their name called. That's why we have this podcast. That's why we're doing it. And by the way, go find it, watch it. You can see our dashing faces on Perfect Game TV as well. So if you're just listening, go download the Perfect Game app, subscribe to this, download that, subscribe, download, subscribe, download.
You forgot to say what Jack said one of his favorite moments in college has been so far. You forgot that part.
I wasn't really listening to anything anybody said.
Okay. Well, hopefully you enjoyed his favorite part. Last year during the regionals. My favorite part too. Congrats, Jack.
You know what? That's sad. That's sad though, because
it's because he had fun.
It's not sad.
It's not. Yeah, they just want to be kids. They just want to have fun, actually. Dude's tearing it up though. You're 100%
for my
right.
job. It's sad for my future. Like, it makes me sad. You're giving chances to these athletes where, the studio's the men are gonna come in here, and the women and their tools, and the studio's gonna be gone. It's gonna happen soon. It's like the
After
Repo
Jack
Man,
Hurley's career.
the Perfect Game TV Repo Man coming soon.
All right. Enjoy the podcast, everybody. See ya.